The 10 Formula 1 team principals have named Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc their top 2 drivers for the 2023 season. F1 tasked them with ranking their top drivers of the campaign in a secret vote of the bosses. Were the bosses kind to the drivers? The result will surprise you. Let's see what F1 team bosses think of Max and his career so far. Before you start laughing or leaving a comment based solely on the headline, let's be clear, Max Verstappen is not the greatest Formula 1 driver of all time, at least not yet. Greatness necessitates staying at the top of your sport for more than a decade, doing things that can help your sport grow off the track. Verstappen is getting there, but he will need to prove himself over the next few years before he can join the conversation. We can argue that Verstappen is the best F1 driver the sport has ever seen in terms of raw, natural talent and speed. Verstappen has demonstrated that he is human by making the occasional error, though he makes very few of them. As an example, consider the 2022 Singapore Grand Prix. When attempting to overtake Lando Norris, he made a mistake by entering the wet section of the track, dropping him to the back. His pace that weekend, however, was still exceptional. The 25-year-old had 2 laps that would have given him pole position in the wet by more than a second, and he would have undoubtedly dominated the race, similar to his performance at the Japanese Grand Prix a week later, where he was crowned champion. Now, let's get back to the original topic at hand. First of all, let's talk about Charles Horner and his concerns. Christine Horner admits that concerns about Max Verstappen's reliability during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix caused his heart to immediately sink. Verstappen had a drive shift issue in Saturday's qualifying session, preventing him from progressing past Q2. As a result, the Dutchman started 15th on the grid but eventually finished second behind teammate Sergio Perez. While the squad appeared to be on track for another 1-2 results, Horner was left fearing the worst when Verstappen reported a potential problem with his RB19. I think once we got to the last 5 laps and it was clear Max wasn't going to catch, they came out of it and drove to the lap time, Horner told RacingNews365.com. I think the most concerning moment for us during the Grand Prix was when Max radioed in, I believe with about 15 laps to go, saying he could hear a high-pitched noise at high speed. So your heart immediately sinks, and we were thinking about Saturday's drive shaft failure. However, after reviewing all of the data we have here, and everything they could see back in Milton Keynes, all of the parameters we had looked fine. Next comes Toto Wolff. Last year, Wolff witnessed Verstappen snatch the title from Lewis Hamilton on the final lap of the season-ending race in Abu Dhabi, following a huge controversy over safety car rules. In 2022, Verstappen and his team set the pace at most races, even if this has sometimes translated into points due to reliability issues. On the other hand, Mercedes is struggling to get to grips with their car after such a long period of dominance in the sport, with Wolff and his drivers, Hamilton and George Russell, struggling to get to grips with their car. However, their leader is not yet willing to relinquish the title. Then we have Mattia Binotto. Scuderia Ferrari team principal Mattia Binotto rules out a Max Verstappen switch to the Maranello squad because the Dutchman's relationship with current driver Charles Leclerc would be difficult to manage. The 49-year-old is pleased with Charles Leclerc's performance in his debut season and does not want to risk any potential issues with the Italian garage. Ferrari has traditionally used a lead and a support driver. Mattia Binotto uses Michael Schumacher's record of winning F1 World Championships year after year as a model for his future driver lineup. I grew up during Michael's reign. He was flanked by Rubens Barrichello and Felipe Massa. We should have a top driver and another driver capable of winning races and scoring points. For example, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas, Mattia Binotto told La Gazzetta dello Sport. The team boss of the Italian team believes Verstappen's arrival is unlikely, while Charles Leclerc is still driving for Ferrari. Managing 2 drivers of this caliber is extremely difficult. Sebastian Vettel is under contract with Ferrari until the end of the 2020 Formula 1 season. Despite numerous errors in the 2019 and a 12-month winless streak, Binotto sees no reason to abandon his 4-time world champion. With Sebastian, we'll go around the table and compare our intentions and expectations to his. There is no reason to split up right now, but a lot will happen between now and next spring, he adds. Then we have the McLaren owner, Zak Brown. Despite Red Bull and Max Verstappen's crushing dominance, McLaren CEO Zak Brown has dismissed suggestions that the 2022 Formula 1 season will be boring. In 2022, F1 introduced new technical regulations to improve the racing spectacle and increase team competition. While it quickly became clear that drivers could follow more closely on track, Red Bull and Verstappen eventually dominated the season, breaking the record for the most wins in a single season with 15 victories. Verstappen won his second world championship in a row with 4 races remaining, with a 146-point lead over second place Charles Leclerc in the drivers' standings. Despite the lack of competition at the front, Verstappen's teammate Sergio Perez also won twice in Monaco and Singapore, ensuring Red Bull won all but 5 races this season. Brown believes the success of the rule changes resulted in a fun season. According to the Dutch edition of motorsport.com, Brown stated, "The racing certainly appears to have improved. Everyone was worried that the cars would all look the same, but they don't. There are numerous concepts to consider. New regulations are always subject to refinement, but I believe we're on the right track, and this year's racing has been thrilling." Despite Max's dominance, it doesn't feel like a dull season, despite what you might think based on the results, but I thought all of the races were thrilling. After Daniel Ricciardo ended McLaren's 9-year wait for a Grand Prix victory at Monza in 2021, the team faced a more difficult season this year, finishing 4th in the Constructors' Championship behind Alpine. Despite this setback, McLaren was the only team other than Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes to score a podium in 2022, thanks to Lando Norris's 3rd place finish in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in April. Keeping a points count from the first to the last race of a Formula 1 season is an excellent objective way to determine who the fastest driver is. You don't have to thank yourself for finishing first as a driver. As a result, Formula 1 holds elections in which the organization asks the subjective question, who was the best driver of the season, to the team bosses and drivers. Max is also the undisputed winner of those elections, as he is ranked first by both groups. The team bosses were asked to award points to each driver, with Max taking first place with 207 points. Charles Leclerc finished second with 144 points. The drivers also ranked Leclerc second, but they did not have to divide points. According to the drivers, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell are tied for 3rd place. The team managers thought Russell was better on average and gave 4th place to Hamilton, the only driver who did not vote. When Max Verstappen won his first world championship last year, he also won the voting rounds among drivers and team owners. We're interested to see who will put the heat on him next year. Also, Max Verstappen has never hidden the fact that he does not want to race in Formula 1 until he is much older. The Dutchman is under contract until age 31, and he has stated that he would like to compete in other racing classes as well. Verstappen also revealed to CNN that he has no plans to return to Formula 1. He told a US news channel that he does not want to be the manager of an F1 team. "No, not in Formula 1, he replied. "I also enjoy other types of motorsport, such as endurance racing. For a long time, Formula 1 has been a big part of my life. We will have to travel extensively, and there will be additional races in the future. The question then becomes whether it is worthwhile to spend so much time away from family and friends in order to achieve even greater success." Max Verstappen is known to want to race alongside his father, Jos, possibly in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. In addition, it was announced on Sunday that Jos Verstappen will have to sit out the first rally season. He is suffering from migraine-like symptoms. Even though Verstappen Sr. feels better, he will miss the first rally in Belgium due to additional medical tests. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you'd like us to make more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel and leave your video suggestions in the comments section.